Hi guys and welcome to another video. So recently I did make a video discussing my Premier League team of the decade. Now within the comments of that video a lot of you guys were asking me to do my Sunderland team of the decade, so that is exactly what I am going to do today. So what I am going to do, I'm going to do my team of the decade, and remember that is just my opinion. You guys are more than welcome to go in the comments down below and leave me your favourite team of the decade. That'd be really interesting to see. And I'm also at the end going to say what manager I would have for this team as well. So my manager of the decade as such. So we'll start off with the formation, and to fit the players that I wanted, it's been really difficult, but it's going to have to be a sort of 4-3-1-2 formation. So there isn't really wingers, which is a little bit disappointing, but there's just too many players in there that I really wanted to squeeze in within this squad, which you'll probably understand once you do see the players that I have put into this team. So we'll start off with the goalkeeper, and you probably could have guessed it, but to be fair, we have had some very good goalkeepers over the last decade. But the one I am going to go for is Jordan Pickford, of course. Jordan Pickford, really, he only had the one sort of full season with us before he did get shipped off to Everton for 30 million. But he was absolutely excellent in that season. He saved us countless times. His reflexes are brilliant, and his kicking ability is second to none, one of the best I've seen. So yeah, Jordan Pickford, of course, homegrown. He's a Sunderland lad. He supports Sunderland. So it really just adds to the fairy tale of Jordan Pickford, doesn't it? Sorry. And yeah, and now he's number one for England, and deservedly so. He's an excellent keeper. He's had his ups and downs whilst being at Everton as well. But he's a strong enough lad, and I believe he'll continue to become one of the best Premier League goalkeepers ever to be seen, because I think he's that good of a goalkeeper. But we shall see. But moving on to the defence now, we are going to go to the right back of this back four, and I have gone with Phil Bardsley. Now, to be fair, there weren't really many players that contested him. He played for us for several seasons, and he wasn't exactly a sort of glorious right back. He didn't bomb forward with the glitz and glam and skills and tricks and all that kind of nonsense, but he was so solid. He was so passionate. He's everything that a Sunderland player should have. A little bit like Lee Cattermole in the sense that, you know, he give 110%, even though he wasn't, you know, technically the best player in the world, but he gave 110%. He was so passionate, he was so determined for the team, and he scored some really important goals for us at different times as well, when he did get himself on the score sheet anyway. But defensively it was really good, it was really solid, and I can't think of a more solid right back for my best Sunderland team of the decade. So my right back will be Phil Bardsley. Now moving over to the left of this back four, I have gone with none other than loanee Marcos Alonso. Now Alonso has gone on to become a bigger name, a much bigger name within world football with how he's been doing at Chelsea. I don't think he's really in favour as much now, but he went on to be a really good important player for Chelsea. We could see his potential when he was at Sunderland, when he did have that loan spell. He was with us when we did go to the Capital One Cup final. He was a really solid player, particularly going forward. And to be honest, I know this might be a little bit controversial, but I was very close to putting Patrick Van Aanholt in there. And I know that a lot of people don't really favour him because defensively at times he was terrible. But he scored so many goals and he looked so good going forward. For me, Van Aanholt's more of a left midfielder because defensively he wasn't great. Alonso is miles better than him defensively, but going forward, Van Aanholt was an absolute beast. So I was very close, but I think as an all-rounded left back, I would have preferred to go with Alonso. So that is why I have gone with Marcos Alonso as a left back. So for the central defenders, the two central defenders, I have gone with Yunus Kabul and John O'Shea, which might surprise a few people because towards the back end of John O'Shea's career, I was quite critical of him for different reasons. Of course, I just felt like we didn't really, or he wasn't good enough for us, which I think proved to be right in some ways anyway, because of course we did go down and he just looked way off the pace towards the back end of his career. But we need to remember him over the decade where he was very solid. He was Mr. Dependable. He captained us to many sort of, you know, Derby Day victories, and on the whole, he was a very good servant to the club, and I can't deny that. It was just the back end of his career, which I just felt like we didn't really need him anymore, and was just holding on to him for the sake of it. Of course, he was very experienced at the time, but, you know, towards the back end of his career, like I say, I just didn't think he was really good enough. But again, as I say, throughout his whole time at Sunderland, it's more of a positive than a negative, and he was a very good servant to the club, a massive servant to the club. So John O'Shea would be in there alongside Yunus Kabul, who was an absolute luxury defender. He was absolutely fantastic in the season that Sam Allardyce kept us up. He was brilliant alongside Limmy and Kone, and I think if Kone didn't end up being so terrible and have such a piss poor attitude. Kone could easily have been in there as well, because for the first sort of 5 or 6 months he was with us, Lamine Kone, he made an absolutely incredible partnership with Yunus Kabul. But then as soon as Kabul left, I think we quickly realised that Kabul may have been carrying him a little bit, because Kone went way off the rails after that, become really greedy. He was wanting new wages, new contracts all the time, and he just seemed like he had an absolutely garbage attitude for me, Lamine Kone. But Kabul, he was very, very good, really solid. He scored goals as well. So yeah, I think Kabul and O'Shea, that's a really decent centre-back partnership. But now moving into the midfield, we have sort of a flat three, and then a sort of attacking midfielder just in front of them, behind the strikers. But starting off with the centre of the midfield three, the flat three, I'm going to go with Lee Catamol. Again, another player who I was a little bit critical of at times, particularly after the relegation from the Championship. I thought that he was past it, because no one really performed in the Championship season, and he just ended up being in the firing line, as well as the likes of John O'Shea. But on the whole, he was a massive servant to the club. Again, it's another player like Barsley, like I mentioned earlier. He epitomises what Sunderland's all about. Passionate, he gave 110%. Yes, he's never going to be a goal scorer, although he did score quite a few in League One last season. But in terms of a passionate player, an engine, someone who puts his body on the line, makes last-ditch challenges, you've got to have Lee Catamol in the side, and I absolutely do love Lee Catamol. I really do, and I really miss him as well at the moment, currently being in League One. But now on the left-hand side of this midfield trio, I'm going to put the man who got away, Jan Mvia, and it still absolutely breaks my heart that we let him get away. Jan Mvia, he was such a class act that season. He was such a class act. He only scored the one goal with a brilliant free kick against Aston Villa, but on the whole, he had such a classy aura about him. Controlled the ball brilliantly. He was really good at controlling that midfield, dictating the tempo of play. He could go forward. He could track back. He could just do a little bit of everything. He was such a well-rounded midfielder. He was just a class player. That's all I can really say. He was truly a class player. But instead, we even though we could have got him for a cut price, we ended up not going for him and going for Didier and Dong, which just shows how shit we are and see how far that goes. Do you know what I mean? But Mvia, we could have got him for a cut price. Apparently, he did come to England on deadline day to sign for us, and then we simply just didn't pick up the phone and we blatantly ignored him. We ghosted Jan Villa, basically, which is just absolutely heartbreaking, because I would have loved to see him at the club and carry on with the club, but it wasn't to be. It was just the most Sunderland thing ever to do. Do you know what I mean? When you've got a player of his quality and his class wanting to play for us, he loved playing for us, and then we signed Didier and Dong, who was shit and didn't give a shit. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, over to someone who did give a shit and does give a shit and has gone on to have an incredible, incredible career. On the right-hand side of this midfield trio, I have gone for none other than Jordan Henderson. And do I really need to say anything else? Do you know what I mean? To be fair, I can remember when he first started with us. I think he was his debut in 2009 potentially, and he actually started off on the right-hand side of midfield. He was a winger for Sunderland originally, and I actually thought he looked really good there, and I was quite confused when we started to play him in the centre midfield. But then only when he started to join Liverpool and he started in the centre, you could really tell why, and why coaches have clearly noticed his ability to control the midfield in that way. Because like I say, he did, at first glance, he came across as this little skillful, nimble winger. That is how he come across originally, which you wouldn't associate with Jordan Henderson right now. But if you do look at him, when he first had his first season with us, when he come through the academy anyway, and after he made his debut, he was getting played on the wing, and he was getting plenty of assists, he was getting the odd goal here and there, and he looked like a really half-decent winger. But he got converted to a central midfielder, and the rest is history. He's now won the Champions League, he's done everything with Liverpool, it looks like he's going to win the league this season, and he's become an absolute leader, a beast of a central midfielder. So for my midfield three, the trio in their flat centre, I would have Mvia, Catamol and Hendo. I just think that'd be class. That'd be class. It's making me sad doing this video, knowing the shite that we've got now. Jesus Christ. But anyway, on to the sort of central attacking midfielder, just in front of that flat three. I have gone with Stefan Sessegnon, who is probably one of the most technically gifted footballers I've seen in my time supporting Sunderland, because he was just absolutely class. There was times where he was a little bit inconsistent, but he also had the ability to just drag us from midfield to the final third like that. He could just turn like that. His acceleration was insane. He scored goals. He scored against, Newcastle, which was a nice one. But he scored goals for, you know, he did score plenty of goals, assists. He was so creative. His technical ability, as I say, was incredible. His dribbling ability was fantastic. Just a really, really good player. And I think if we look at this from an actual team standpoint, as in a starting 11, I think to have those three midfielders who are relatively sort of defensive, if you look at, you know, Crathorne and Villa and Hendo, I think that's a really good brick wall there in the middle of midfield. But if they just give it on to Sessegnon, he can just take it up to the final third by himself because he was that good and he could do that. But now, on to the final two, to the two strikers. So this was probably the easiest decision out of all of them. The first one being Jermaine Defoe. Of course, he scored goals for fun in a team where he was isolated. He was up front alone half the time. You know, he's not the biggest of players and we'd be lumping balls up to him. And he somehow still managed to score an absolute shit ton of goals. And he's been one of the best goal scorers in Premier League history anyway, regardless of his history with Sunderland. And of course, he had his relationship with Bradley Lowry, which was just the icing on the cake because he's just a great man, Sunderland favourite, and he scored the absolute beauty of a volley against Newcastle as well at the Stadium Light, where we did win by 1-0. And that is just, that epitomises Jermaine Defoe, just a class person and a brilliant goal scorer as well. And alongside him, someone who did leave in sort of controversial terms, but that's by the by because he was a fantastic goal scorer, and that is Darren Bent. Darren Bent was absolutely class for us, and he would not stop scoring goals, and he ended up being one of the hottest properties in English football whilst playing for Sunderland, but then he ended up going to Aston Villa, and he did of course score that famous beach ball goal as well. But yeah, on the whole, Darren Bent, regardless of what you think of him, he was a class goal scorer. He had pace, strength, and he could finish from anywhere. He just always in the right place at the right time. He's a natural goal scorer. But yeah, so that is my Sunderland team of the decade. And now my manager to manage this team of the decade would be, of course, Sam Allardyce, because I believe that if Sam Allardyce didn't leave us to go to England, where of course that went tits up, I don't think we'd be where we are now. I think we would have pushed on and maybe even been in the top 10 in the Premier League. But instead, we got David Moyes, and shit hit the fan, and the rest is history. But yeah, so that is my team of the decade. There it is. We have Jordan Pickford in goal. We have Phil Bardsley. We have Kabul, O'Shea, Marcus Alonso, Hendo, Mvia, Catamol, Sessegnon, Bent, and Jermaine Defoe, with of course Sam Allardyce as their manager. So as I said at the beginning of the video, you let me know down below in the comments what your Sunderland team of the decade will be. But if you have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button for me. It'd be massively, massively appreciated. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already to become a fully fledged member of the Sassy Army. But for now, you take care and stay jamming.